So today we're going to be talking about water purification methods and the importance of water in any survival situation. Now the key thing is, you've all heard that food you can go without for long periods of time, but water is very crucial to your survival. And I previously mentioned that being able to have quality methods of storing water on hand, such as this platypus, are very important. But today we're going to cover some interesting facts and methods to procure it and some things to pack. Some survival experts were talking about how you want everything simple. You want less parts, less things for error. You want versatility in your kit. So the main thing to remember is everything you pack should emphasize conserving water to the clothing you have with you. To help you not perspire too much, perhaps, to the food you eat. A lot of people pack high protein, and protein, if you learn, requires a lot of water to actually digest, so it's the wrong thing to pack. Consider packing carbohydrates over proteins. The main thing also, for example, why a lot of campers pack anti-diarrhea pills, also pills that control stomach acid and vomiting. Those are very important because that whole idea, again, is to preserve water. So, for example, even your knife, you look at how do you clean your knife out, and this is why a lot of professionals use frame locks, because of the TI, titanium, and the open construction. They require less water, and you have to keep in mind, one of the most important things is, I had been through there was about a year where I was kind of in the middle of nowhere, you would say. Definitely not a normal first world country. During that time, you learn a lot about cross-contamination and germs, and to the point of where you can't touch yourself or scratch your skin, or you will get an infection. Whether you're in tools or you're picking up the contaminated water with your bottle, that those things will have to be sanitized, or you have to use those things, perhaps put them in the fire to make sure. And then that's where rebar tire wire comes into play and its importance. So first thing, couple facts, is that 1 ounce of pesticide can contaminate 7,800 gallons of water. So if there was an event of some kind of disaster, so for example, if there was an earthquake and lines were to be broken and there was contamination of water, this could be a problem. According to Wikipedia, about 9% of every stream in the U.S. is contaminated with some form of pesticides. The more important thing is also to note, like, for example, ditches and storm drains. When people wash their cars or have pesticides on their lawns, insecticides, all those go into the ocean or streams. They don't go into the sewer system. That's different. They're not connected. An important thing to note is also, when you start to rely on emergency methods of water purification, it can bioaccumulate the effects, meaning the effects of contamination, whether it be the chlorine in the water you're drinking that you're using to purify it, along with if you're on the top of the food chain, and every other animal below you and things you're eating are contaminated with pesticides. In their body fat, it'll accumulate in you. And I don't know if you guys have ever done it, but if you ever actually do distill your own water, and when you're done, you can use this, wow, it looks like, I don't know, metal, minerals, and then boogers. I can't explain it. Like, things start to grow. It's just disgusting. There's that movie Aaron Brockovich with Julia Roberts that replicates the true story of a town being affected by some kind of a contamination of their water source, and it's a true story. Now, regardless, there are two ways water can be contaminated. Okay, there's biological contamination and then chemical. Now, biological contamination, you got a couple more simple ways to deal with it. Chemical is when you start to get more complicated. What are the things that chemical or biological contamination can do to you? Okay, first, predominantly, you have Giardia and E. coli and those things that are bacteria that grow in water, and those can predominantly give you diarrhea. And so you're trying to prevent that, because again, that would be water loss. And then also, you have to look at pesticides can cause cancer, and because pesticides are chemicals, along with even chlorine, even salt, they have a negative current. Like, when you hear you have to rehydrate, and Gatorade has that balance of electrons. Negative electrons, okay, you're gonna have to look this up, but when our cell replicates, okay, there's of course there's positive and negative electrons in your body. When the cell replicates, it reproduces itself, to repair itself constantly, as because your body keeps breaking down every minute you're alive. Now, what happens is when a negative electron, for example, radiation, or for example, a chemical, or a negative balance of your acidic in your body is around your cell, it can basically mutate or damage, basically zap that cell and morph it. And once it's a damaged cell, the cell still duplicates. At that point, it duplicates as, like, I guess you could say in a layman's way, of like scar tissue, and become a tumor. It'll keep duplicating into something that shouldn't be there, and that's generally how cancer is. That's how cancer works. Now, what happens is now you have to look at, like, so if in event of a natural disaster, or they say that, like, most cities have this thing where they say, like, you're required for 3 months to be able to survive on your own. But whether you're outdoors or at home, just trying to survive, you have to look at the long-term effects of perhaps drinking toxic water, to food, biologically contaminated water, and these effects that could have on you. Now, okay, biological contamination is a little bit easier to deal with. Typical method everyone always says, of course, is just to boil. Boil the water, and boil it for a good amount of time. I don't know, everyone ranges. You could choose. Some people will do it for a little bit, like maybe, I don't know, 3-4 minutes, and then let it, kind of keep the top on and just let it heat up and last, pasteurize. Other people, I would boil for 10 minutes. I mean, it's just really how much fuel you have to burn. I mean, how cautious you want to be. The actual requirement is only a minute or two. And once it's boiled, the oxygen is removed, so the water is flat. So if you want it to taste a little better, you can shake it. And boiling will kill predominantly all the bacteria inside of it. There is that cryptosporidium, which is a little bit more resilient. So if you really want to be careful against that, you could do that. So this is why I say it's important to have a metal canteen, so that if you were to fill it, you can use this same canteen on you to boil the water. And a lot of societies, if you look into them, a lot of tribal cultures, the key two things, if they could have for modern society, would be a water bottle and a knife and a cutting edge. Clorox bleach from home, the bleach you have at home for your laundry, you can use 2-3 drops per quart or 8 drops per gallon. But note that chlorine can affect your red blood cells and also, again, cause cancer. You can use chlorine from buying your pool supply store. You go to your pool store, buy a little packet of chlorine pellets. You can even put those inside your kit, and 2-3 drops again per quart. And the thing is, chlorine, it tastes funny. I mean, you can let it sit there for, I think, about half an hour, and then you can drink it. But it's kind of like iodine, but it's a hard thing to drink. I mean, for me personally, when it comes to chlorine, I'd rather just use it to clean things and disinfect things rather than drink it. It's just, but if you had to, just note, chlorine has a strong taste. And chlorine has been linked to asthma. Chlorine is present in all of our modern society water, at least here in the U.S. Now, the last method would be the SODIS method. SODIS stands for solar disinfection, and it's created by SANDEC, that's the Department of Water and Sanitation, at the Swiss Federal Institute of Aquatic Science and Research. But predominantly what it is like some kind of award-winning thing, the Red Cross and everything. And what basically it is they've come up with a way to disinfect water through using UV rays in the sun. What you do is you find a water bottle. And you have to look, you won't be able to see this, but down here on the bottom, another water bottle, sometimes on the labels, there'll be a number 1 recycling logo, the number 1 in it, and then PEAT. Bottles like this, they're clear, because if it's color, it will block UV rays. You can fill with water, depending on how flat the water was. If the water was sitting and very still, then it doesn't have oxygen in it. For the solar disinfection method to work, the water requires oxygen. So if it's from a stream or from a faucet or something, you're fine. But if not, you're gonna have to shake the water around. Leave enough room for some oxygen. And what you want is preferably not even a bottle like this. You want a bottle that's very compact. You would have to remove this label. Put the water inside after filtering it, which we'll talk about, and screw it off, and then set in the sun. Now you want to set in direct sunlight for about 6 hours on a kind of half cloudy day. You're trying to, and there's ways to improve this and speed this up. For example, if you were to put this on a car rooftop, that hood of the car, especially if it's a white surface like a FJ Cruiser, will reflect that heat into this bottle like a greenhouse effect and multiply that quicker. These platypuses, the same thing, you know. And there's two types of bottle of plastic that are used: PVC and PET. Of course, this is the PET. PET is much more better at this method than PVC, and the way to tell between the two is if it's not labeled. You know, you can take a sample and burn it. PET will burn quickly, and PVC will take a long time to burn, and it will have a different smell. It's kind of a strong, nasty smell, as opposed to PET, which is, the smoke is sweet and the flame goes out slowly. Now, people would say, like before, you've ever heard someone tell you, oh, well, the plastic will break down and contaminate your water. And according to the medical and all these scientists, it takes 1 year of daily use for this plastic bottle to deteriorate. So you're safe using this one bottle over and over. The only problem with the SODIS method of purifying water is that you have to be stationary. You know, you have to have some kind of home base, some kind of area where you can set this in the sun for long periods of time. If you want to consider putting aluminum foil underneath, the key thing to remember is don't put anything flammable nearby, because as the UV rays go into the water bottle, the water can make a point that starts like a magnifying glass and start a fire. So kind of funny, you know. Now the key thing before you do any of this, though, of course, I got to mention, is you must filter the water. I think it was in the 70s or something. Don't quote me on that, but it was in Germany. They needed to make filters because they had to put water in the cars constantly. They were predominantly made of wool, sponge, and charcoal. And so this is why in my kit I pack a shamwow. If you guys are familiar with the shamwows, this is a Speedo, same thing. Just basically these cloths that are very absorbent of water, and you can use them as washcloths, you know, and other ways. Heck, you could use them to store water if you had to. But the point is, what you can do. Actually, I'll tell you this, but this applies later on for salt water procuring. But regardless, you see this dirty water right here? Okay, I'm going to pour that into my other mug. Now, the idea of filtering is simple. What you're trying to do is just create layers. Some people will use rocks and sand and anything they can pick up to just basically grab all of the biological, I forgot what the term is, but all the bulk out of the water, so that you end up with just mostly water. Especially with SODIS method, you must filter it, because if there is large amounts of matter in the water, that will affect the UV rays' ability to get to it. So you can see it's empty, right? Here's the dirty water. And this is my little shamwow method. Let's see. And here's the. So, you know, you could use a t-shirt, you know, fill it with, you know, you have descending down, like if you were to turn the t-shirt into like a bag, and tie it from the top, you know, you could have the small, for example, small, perhaps sand at the bottom, and then in the middle you could have like rocks, and the tops you could have like leaves and stuff, and it would catch all the sediment, basically all the nasty stuff. Basically, you know, water from streams can be contaminated. You know, you always basically even you go to the ocean, there's going to be chemical contamination, or you want to try to go higher than basically the if whatever was contaminating it. For example, it was the city sewer lines and stuff. You would want to get above that level. The higher, the more pure the water will be. But it doesn't mean that there's an animal taking a piss in the water, you know, up the stream, or a dead animal in the water. They say like about 50% of the United States or something like that gets its water from land-based, like from wells, aquifers. Now, let's see. This will take a while, so I'll keep doing this while I move on to the next subject. Now, the next way to look at also, okay, is chemical. Now, chemical is where it gets more tough. Now, chemical contamination of water is like from pesticides, for example, acid rain, you know, let's see. Now there's, first of all, to note, the key way to remove chemicals from water is to use charcoal. Charcoal from, of course, the stores will have, will have gasoline for, making your barbecue. But the reason why that is because charcoal is very, very porous. The surface area, for example, 1 teaspoon of charcoal equals 1 football field of area. So basically, it's very porous. And so what happens is, and charcoal is basically carbon filtering. And carbon is also in your graphite pencils, and so carbon is safe to ingest. It can stay within you indefinitely and at some point pose a problem, but it's safe. Purify water from chemical contamination is to use first a charcoal filter or a carbon filter. And what you do then, of course, is the old-fashioned, basically take some wood, set it on fire, of course, let it burn. You want to preferably remove oxygen from it, so you want to perhaps get it to be enclosed in a container of some sort, a metal container, or you want to try to build a oven of some sorts for it to burn until it becomes basically burnt wood, and that's easy enough. And then you would hammer it down into granules, or basically little pebbles, and that's the preferred method to go. It's over the pure powder of mashing it into pure powder. And then that basically replicates those old-fashioned German filters using wool, sponge, and charcoal. Now, what you can do then is, okay, the thing is, in order for charcoal to be more effective, first you have to get charcoal to be activated, or active charcoal, I think that's the term, but regardless, it's GAC, it's activated carbon, granulated activated carbon. And what that means is it needs an electric charge to it. You need that charcoal to have basically an electric charge, so it'll pull all of the chemicals out of water more effectively. So there's the easy way. Well, there's the tough way is you have to heat the water up to like 900 degrees Celsius, 600, 900 degrees Celsius. That's going to be tough. The other way is to add electrons to the water, which will be salt. Or acid, lemon juice, anything you can do to basically soak the wood in it. For example, soak the wood in salt water, and then when you then burn it and turn it into charcoal, it'll be active, and those things can last for months. It's basically the same thing as a home filter. A home filter pitcher, they have classes, class 1, class 2, class 3. Home filters only do 25 to 50% reduction. Actually doing it this way, you can actually get the higher in the class 1, basically 50 to 75%. Now let's see. For example, you can buy this products, this home distillers. For example, a Smart Still is $260. You can buy even, this is just for biological contamination, you can buy this $8 gravity flow system by Sawyer, which is it'll deal with biological contamination, 1 million gallons worth. Comes with a whole fancy kit, all these parts and pieces. Very expensive methods, but like I said, I think depending on where you live, chemical contamination becomes perhaps a bigger issue. After you've used the carbon filter, the ultimate way, the best way, is still you have to then distill it. And now to distill it, there's many different methods. People will use a glass bowl, and what they'll do is inside the glass bowl they'll set a cup, and then they'll put like a plastic wrap over the bowl and put tie the wrap onto the bowl, put a rock in the middle of the bowl, and as the sun beats on it, the water inside, you put water inside the bowl and the cup empty in the middle. As the sun evaporates the water, it rises, hits that plastic wrap, and it drips down. For example, your emergency space blanket, it'll hit that space blanket, and because of the rock in the middle, it'll create a point, and the water will all drip down that point and then drip into your cup, and that'll be clean water. But chemical contamination is very difficult to remove, and I can tell you, and that is because, for example, this thing. Now this is actually a mini espresso maker, and to note, a lot of people pack caffeine. If you're going to pack coffee, that's not following that method of survival of needing less, everything all in one spot. You have coffee, you have to have water to make it if you need caffeine. If you just have no dose, then you can just use your no-dose without it. Making coffee. But regardless, caffeine will speed up metabolism and dehydrate you. This is a well-known fact. So it's not the best thing to be doing. The best thing that can't replace just being in shape and staying in good health. But this mini espresso cup maker is basically a little portable distiller. Inside, you just put the water, you know, put this little top thing on right here, and just boil. Now we did a little test with the vitamin water. You know, has that food coloring. Mel, she had to boil it for 1 hour, 1 cup, and by the 4th time it had come through. You didn't lose any water, of course, but there was still leftover coloring in it, meaning it was still chemically contaminated, and that's why you need that carbon filter to speed up this process. So bear that in mind. You know, distilling requires lots of fuel, unless you can at least, you know, if you're going to cook something, use that charcoal to help this process out. And then this method is basically used, you can use this to desalinize seawater. You can use that other method where I was saying where you have the bowl. Again, this is why these old tribes, the one thing they would love to have is just a bowl. You can see this water. It's let's see if I can get a white surface on the back. Here's my notes. Pretty clear, right? Not much though, because the ShamWow is a sponge, of course. So that's something you're gonna have to consider. Now here's my emergency kit, my little Maxpedition. This comes with me every day. And you can see I have my rebar tire wire right here. You get this at Home Depot. And why rebar tire wire is important, and also me telling you that packing tool steel is important, is because another way, for example, I was saying the Indians, tribes, they use distilling, and it basically is this method, but much bigger. And what happens is, if you are in a survival situation and need to create a distiller, you're going to need something that can cut through metal. Now, if you guys have never followed, actually, and I don't want to sound some kind of ridiculous survivalist, but if you've never read this book by Cody Landine, When Hell Breaks Loose, it's actually a really good book. And here is a goofy little diagram of a distiller. You see, here's the nasty water, and what Cody had done is he had turned the lid upside down, and then with rebar tire wire connected a pot or your water bottle or your cup. And this is why it's important that all your it helps if your cookware is titanium and has a ring of some sort, some way of fastening. If you were to wrap the tire wire around here, you could hang it. A lot of people don't know, but perhaps titanium doesn't heat up. Well, it does, but when it cools down very quickly, so it's easy to touch immediately after, and that's why these titanium sporks are so good, and along with these titanium cups right here. And you can see, and it's the same idea as that jar, or that bowl I was telling you about, with a space blanket or saran wrap, or not saran wrap, but some kind of plastic sheet on top. But you can see that this is the idea. So like I said, it's just the water is dripping down. Now, I guess to recap, first of all, in the event of some kind of disaster, or earthquake, survival situation, you're going to be faced with one, water that can be contaminated through multiple ways, whether it be acid rain, runoff, leaks, and cracks in sewer systems. You're going to be looking at 2 forms of contamination, biological and chemical. And then it may not just be directly from your water. The effect of that contamination can bioaccumulate in you because you're at the top of the food chain and you're getting these water and the food from animals that may not. And so then, you gotta look. The key thing also, you gotta conserve your water. Watch what you eat in terms of not too much meat. Also, and then there's a reason, because meat requires an acid to break down. So your body has to produce uric acid, urine, to break down the meat, because fat and oils don't dissolve in water. And regardless, and now you have, you make sure you don't throw up. And that's the important thing when you pack food that you've tried on an empty stomach that doesn't give you stomach acid. Okay, then. What you're looking at is you must filter the water, whether it be through a gravity filter. You could even, if you wanted to really sacrifice a platypus and cut the top off, put sand in here, rocks and things like that, and pour water through it and have it go down into your cup, or you can use the ShamWow, which is what I pack, because it's basically a super dense, very, very fine pore sponge. Basically, like how when you're near the ocean and you're near a coral reef, the water is crystal clear because the coral reef has filtered the water. Now, and then once you've filtered the water, if you're looking at chemical contamination, or if not, me personally, if I can, I'm going to use a carbon filter. I'm going to start a fire, get some wood burnt, try to see if I can find a way to activate the wood. If not, look at a way of multiplying the heat within that fire, whether it be through using foil or metal surfaces, to build that fire heat up so that the charcoal is now activated. Break it down into little pebbles and stuff, and then again repeat that process of find something porous. Now note when they say like microns, you know, how precise the water is purified. For example, this gets it down to a very, very low 0.1 micron filter. That has nothing to do with the actual quality of the charcoal or the carbon, because that is those are so microscopic, and you can't measure. What it is because when we're talking about when you use graphite for lubricating your knife, you know, it's so microscopic, it picks up things around it. It's super lubricitous. Same idea. So it just, everything soaks into it and the water goes through. It goes by the quality of the filter. So if you can find something to use as a filtering surface, some kind of fabric or something that's very, very fine, very tight knit, then you know, you bet your filter will work better. Because the thing is, you want the water to sit inside that carbon or that charcoal for longer periods of time, just like the home one where it drips. You want the water to pass very slowly through. So what you could do is run it through, pour the water over and over through your carbon filter, and then, you know, hopefully that will remove most of the toxic chemicals that again could either cause cancer or also have more serious effects on a person, asthma, etc. And then once you do that, you know, don't forget, you can also, if it's just biologically contaminated and you think that's predominantly the only concern, boil the water. And remember, you know, a lot of people don't realize the value of water. Like I said, when you have to conserve it, and you have to minimalize, and you know, you use this perhaps to do a chore, and then you use it for food prep. You know, you're cross-contaminating. Then you use it to perhaps, you know, you have to look at whatever you're using your knife for, your cutting tool, that surface. You know, unless you're going to stick it in the fire, which is why a lot of custom knife makers like CPM 154 or blades that have some, you know, the chrome moly mixes, the tool steels that can handle heat, but at the same time are stainless, which, you know, are best for outdoors. You know, you look at that. You know, not wasting water to clean this. Don't use water to brush your teeth. That's not potable. You know, you want to make sure the water that you use for everything, whether cleaning or, you know, washing yourself, is clean, preferably, because that can cross-contaminate, at least in your mouth. You know, and then once you have that, you boil. If you're on the go, you can opt to use chlorine or bleach, and then, you know, let it sit there for half an hour. But you got that issue of it won't kill cryptosporidium. Cryptosporidium you have to filter or boil. So regardless, you know, boiling is the safest way. You know, like I said, 2 minutes is the sort of a minimum in my opinion. But you know, that's what everyone says you can do. And then, you know, you can also do the SODIS method. You know, if you pack your platypuses, and this is important too. You know, if you need that water, you can pack your platypuses, or you can use these #1 PET bottles, clear ones. And what you want, of course, is lay down this way, because what you want is more sun to hit more water, and you want this bottle probably to be thinner, so that it, you know, it gets through not a thick layer of water. And then that is another way. If you just need to specifically make it drinkable, not necessarily purely safe, I would say, like we're looking at just I mean, giardia, diarrhea, giardia, etc. Those things, you know, a dog can get, and they cause diarrhea and affect your eating, your nutrition absorption. When your dog gets it, you give them garlic or orange juice, something citric. You want their blood levels to be acidic, so you try to raise that on purpose. Onions, it's just things that would raise the acidity of your blood level can help fight that. So I hope this video was helpful. I know it's kind of a complicated, there's a lot of information lately, but the general idea is simple. And if you just watch this again, or, you know, just go over it a couple times, the concept's very simple, and the process of doing this is not too bad. And in the end, I hope that these skills will stay with you, and if you learn them, can help in any kind of disaster situation, you or your family.